Yep.
Right. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing in Fandom Flashbacks? Glad y'all are watching, paying attention, sharing. It's awesome. Thank you all for your support. I'm glad y'all are here to join me as I introduce an amazing lifelong friend, sports entertainer, stand-up comedian, my cousin, and a huge, huge inspiration to me, just for chasing his dreams and doing something that makes him happy. Brian Moody, everybody.
How's it going? How are you?
How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Awesome. Man, thank you for taking time to do this for me. I'm really excited to have
Always good to hang.
a real geek on here with me.
Yeah, for real. We kind of discovered the geekdom together as kids.
Oh yeah, definitely. Speaking of, the reason that I wanted Brian to do an interview with me was I want to discuss three main things. Entrepreneurship, obviously. Me and you grew up working together with our parents and out of Traders Village, all that kind of thing. So we know a lot about entrepreneurship to begin with. Following passion and happiness, and also, of course, to geek culture, which we're going to save that best part for the end. But,
cool.
Just for the audience, based on the three things that I just mentioned, can you introduce yourself to them and kind of tell your story about what you do and how you got there?
So I'm Brian Moody. I am predominantly an independent professional wrestler known as Jack Moody, based out of the Chicago area, but also wrestle all over Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin as well. That's kind of my territory right now. I am also a comedian, and wrestling's kind of taken over my life for a while, but every now and then I'll still pop in and do a set or do some improv shows, that sort of thing.
I think you did one last time you came down.
Yeah. So still dabble in that, but I kind of found my real passion with wrestling a little later, and then I'm also I am a production manager for World Arm Wrestling League. So that's kind of that's where I make my money.
That's cool.
And then then just all in that that realm, the entertainment realm, the broadcast realm.
That's amazing that there's money to be made in arm wrestling league.
I mean, it pays all.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it pays all of my bills. So.
All right. Well, all that being said, again, I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship and work ethic. Talk about our humble beginnings. With work ethic and where it all came from. Starting with Traders Village. My mom owned a business called
Bargain Palace?
Yes, Bargain Palace.
Bargain Palace.
It's been so many years, I almost forgot.
We were young barkers.
Yeah.
That's what we were.
Yelling and trying to get people's attention.
In the Texas heat, we would be we're probably like 8, 9 years old.
8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, we're 8 or 9 years old, just yelling outside of a flea market shop. Just yelling, everything's half price today.
Everything's half price. We were the promoters.
The thing is, we were yelling that every week, so there would always just be some dickhead redneck that would go, it's half price every week. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm 9, and you're heckling me. Like,
and you're 45.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
And you're at a flea market every week, so.
And of course it's that every week because you work here too.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, obviously, Mom, I love Mom to death, but she is a super hard person to work for. But that being said, I think it made a huge impact on me, obviously, in my work ethic, and me and her still have different viewpoints on even my business that I'm doing now, but it's mine, so we discuss it, but at the end of the day, I finally get to choose. But a lot of that work ethic came from her, and a lot of that determination, and you're not going to tell me I can't, came from her. Do you think Traders Village impacted you in a way that really helps you, in some form or fashion, get to where you're at?
I think that sort of thing, just working from a young age, and that, and that it's really doing it because the family needed it.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
for sure.
you have to kind of, when you put that first, like, you learn that you have to provide, you know, and that you can do that, you know, really by your own devices. Like, you know, seeing your mom do that, you know, it's kind of just like, she didn't need a boss to do it. She made her own way. She was able to provide, but making her own way without having anybody tell you what to do. And like you were saying, nobody's like it's your thing. You're the one that makes the final decision. That's how it was with her. So it kind of showed that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we've definitely had a few discussions that she's like, nah, I don't know if you should do it that way. But I'm like,
that's what I'm doing.
I hear you, but this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Also, with your wrestling and just your general Facebook and Instagram posts are usually always hashtagged with living your best life, which is something I wanted to talk about. Describe your journey and transition from working like a normal society job to chasing that dream and actually finally living your best life.
I mean, I think that's always kind of been in the cards. Like since I was really just out of college, around like 22, 23, I had a job. Really, I guess I was 22 years old. I had a job that, because I just had to have one, that I hated. That was
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that was fire and water damage recovery, and it was the absolute worst thing ever. You know, on call every other week, to where you couldn't do anything as a 22-year-old. You know, not being able to go and have a social life, and it was just all work. Just very quickly burned me out. And right before I was about to quit, I hurt my back and had to like go. And I had to, while they were taking care of my, like it was a work injury. So they had to like put me through all the medical care. So until my back was better, I was stuck there, or I would have to pay for my own medical care. And that was like, being stuck in that position made me realize like very quickly. I knew as soon as my back's better, as soon as I'm cleared, I'm getting out of there. And I'm only going to do something that, even if I'm not making money doing something I love, I'm only going to have a job that allows me to do the things I love. Because many times, especially when I was trying to get started in comedy, which I'd been doing improv since I was in high school, but to be able to get this job, I pretty much had to give that up, because I would never know what time I'm getting home from work. It was going to be I was getting home at work between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. And you can't book a comedy show if you don't know you're going to be off in time to make your comedy show. You can't no-show.
Yeah.
You can't cancel that sort of thing. And you also can't get recognition and get booked on shows if you're not being able to make it out on a regular basis. And that was what I wanted to pursue at the time. And so eventually, as soon as I could, left that job. Just got a job at a restaurant, but made sure I was only working lunch shifts. So at that point,
so I can still pursue the
I can do what I want. Yeah. So getting off at 4 p.m. That's great. Like, I don't care if I have to and then if I'm not doing comedy, I'll pick up a double to make sure I can make ends meet. Just driving from Denton to Dallas, that's an hour, and the gas money, especially at that time, gas was somewhere between like $3 and $4 a gallon, and so yeah. But yeah, and then
I sometimes still have nightmares about that.
Right. Yeah, and then from there it was, I've made sure that was the case. That's always been the case. Like whenever I have that, make sure that money's not the priority, and really as long as I'm able to make ends meet, like I'm good. I don't have to have more as long as I'm able to do the things that I actually want to do.
Which is funny that you bring that up, because we literally just had this discussion 10-15 minutes ago about the podcast that I listened to. Yeah. And I listened to a whole lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's all about happiness is ROI. The money is secondary. Yeah. As long as you're supported, like after that, do what you love. Yeah. And that was another reason. Like I had the sense that you were probably going to say something like that anyway, and that's why I wanted you to be in this interview as well. And then with the living my best life, like that's true, I am, but like specifically my social media, it's all Jack Moody. Like I only post in character, and Jack Moody's a trust fund douchebag. For people that don't know who Jack Moody's character is, he's a real just shithead. He's a real jerk. Which, by the way, we are going to have an interview with Jack Moody separately later, so you'll get to see a little bit of an introduction to that.
But it's also, it's real that I'm doing that. But Jack Moody's also a liar. This is how I like to describe it, and only some people get this. Jack Moody was the kid in 6th grade that said he had the Nintendo 128 because his dad went to business in Japan. They have future stuff in Japan, so he had the Nintendo. He had Super Mario Brothers to 18 because he was, his dad got it for him. Just the kid that just always lies.
That always lies about nothing for no reason.
Yeah. Or what was in Malibu's Most Wanted where the guy has the game station? He's like, no, it's GameCube or PlayStation. He's like, no, I have the game station.
Oh, yeah.
But and then that works for the character too, because the character is supposed to be a lot of my posts, or the character rubbing stuff in his face. And it's always, for me personally, what I try to do if I'm ever in a cool position or a cool place, I try to find the way that makes it look the coolest, even though everything surrounding it could be crap. If this looks really cool, I'm going to take a picture of it as Jack Moody or with Jack Moody, and I'm just going to lie about it in the caption about something else. Like a series of videos in Europe where I went on vacation with my girlfriend, but we went to several places, and then, every time, like we were in Paris, and that was really, really cool. The first time I've ever been on a trip with a significant other, but I took a video in front of a place that said Orleans on it, and I just said I'm in Orleans now. So I cut a promo in Orleans, also cut a promo in Paris, then we just go to different places and different scenes in the same city, and I would say it was in a different city every time.
That's awesome.
Living my best life. Just being a liar.
Where was I here? My bad. Obviously, explain how improv troops, your early involvement in that, as well as the stand-up comedy, affects the sports entertainers.
Okay, yeah.
The wrestling.
Well, improv, like, first of all, I suggest improv or like a class or going through an improv program. If people are in the Texas area, Dallas Comedy House is the best place for it. It helps everyone. With improv, the whole thing is you're saying yes and. Like, you're saying yes to when an idea is presented to you, you're never going to negate it. You're always going to say yes and accept it, and then you're going to try to build on it to make it better. And that's how you make a good improv scene. Most people, what they're familiar with improv, it's whose line is it anyway? That's like the general zeitgeist introduction to it. And if you watch them, you'll notice they're never going to just straight up deny that something's happening. They will always, like, if somebody's like, oh, we're going to have some pancakes this morning, they're not going to be like, that's not pancakes, that's a spaceship. Like, then it's just fucking stupid. Yeah. But if they accept it, like, those are pancakes, and just like, oh, it's about time you do something around the house. Finally making something. Like, then they accept it. They can even be confrontational, but they accepted that that's real pancakes, Yeah. And the thing is, you can do that just in life. Like, when life comes along and gives you, like, this is happening right now, you can either just be like, tense up and do it, or you can say, yeah, it is, and I'm going to find the best to make it as good as possible.
The best way to handle it.
And that's just life. Of course, that kind of thing happens in wrestling as well. It's live entertainment. It's live in front of them, and then, like, we're doing real action, and sometimes things will happen that mess up. Like, and it's a mess up, but if you're able to roll with it and say, yes, this is happening, and now I'm going to make it better, the only people that notice that there was a mistake was the two people in the ring. Yeah. And nobody else does, and it could end up being cooler anyway. So,
to be fair, there have been a couple WWE promos I've seen here and there where something will happen that was not scripted, and you could see the wrestler, like, kind of turn away from the camera and do the little chuckle, like, oh, but they do typically play it off pretty. Yeah.
Well, especially like with wrestling, I mean, there's an audience that you're having to constantly having to interact with. If you're not interacting with the audience as a wrestler, you're not doing your job. Absolutely. One of my favorites is just Chris Jericho cutting a promo in the ring, and somebody goes, "Go back to Toronto," and he just drops his promo and just goes, "I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot!" And, like, that's one of my favorite moments in wrestling in general. And it was just Chris Jericho just being like, "This guy's interrupting my promo, but I'm going to run with this," and, like, it, and it stuck with me 14 years later, or whatever it was. So,
and of course, a lot of them will always have the chance with that asshole.
yeah.
They still have to interact with it, and then
Yeah.
you know they'll talk shit to the
Yeah.
fans. That's yeah.
Or
I can see that.
recently, it's Daniel Bryan, and you know, there's been that Stone Cold Steve Austin chant, the what in the middle of a line, and then he'll just say something just like, "Oh, so you're going to jump on the back of something that was 14 years ago because you're old and antiquated, and you're never going to appreciate what's happening right now. You don't appreciate the real athletes. You just want to go back to a time in the past that you imagine was really great, but it really wasn't. You just weren't aware of how awful of a human you were back then, so you want to go back there." And it'd be just like, "Oh, I can't just steal what anymore." And he just shut him down. Like, and that wasn't written. They didn't know he was going to be writing what, but he just went with it, and that's who his character was. So.
You mentioned improv, kind of teaching a bigger lesson in life about, you know, when something happens, you're going to take it and you're going to make the best out of it. Were there any kind of struggles as far as friendships, relationships, haters, you know, stuff like that ever maybe got you distracted or kind of deterred you from doing what you wanted to do?
Not really. I mean, I've always just kind of done my thing when it comes to that. Like, if I want to do improv, I'm doing improv. Like, you're not going to stop me from... I'm very fortunate to have parents that are supportive of that kind of thing. You know, that were able to just be like... that understand, even if they don't approve and they don't think it's in my best interest, they'll still support it when I chase something, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's
always
that's
good to have somebody...
like a support system.
Who's gonna have your back on it
Yeah.
and believes that you can do it, you know.
And especially like when it comes to like that's always helpful, but when it comes to like relationships, when it comes to like a romantic relationship, I learned, you know, through trial and error in relationships that I need to have somebody that kind of has their own thing too, something that they're passionate about. That, you know, if they don't have their own passions and their own things that they want to chase, then they're going to probably hold back me wanting to chase the things I want to chase. If you have two people that can just chase their things together and they support each other in chasing it, then it can be a good one. But if it's going to be one of those where, you know, the person gets jealous of you chasing their passion, like, no, like...
Actually, I've been there now.
Yeah.
Now that you say that.
I
didn't even realize it until you said it, but yeah, I've been there.
But you want somebody to... that has their own passions. You want to support them in those passions and their chase, and then you want them to support yours, and like you can make that equally work. And sometimes it does happen. Like right now, I travel a lot for work, and sometimes it does happen we don't get to see each other as much. But you know, but when we do, we get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, so
definitely
that's the most important thing, and putting that definition or making sure that understanding there is very early on, because like. Look, we can just be friends if this isn't going to work where I can do my own thing. I'm going to do my own thing.
They'll lay down the ground rules.
Yeah. Like,
which,
like if you're not okay with this, cool. That's fine. That's not a big deal. But...
yeah, and the worst is the ones that tell you, oh, yeah, it's fine, and then 6 months
Yeah.
later, no, it's not.
But you can tell if somebody has their own passions and they're adamantly chasing those passions, then you know, like, they understand it. When I lay down those ground rules, they're like, thank God you're saying this. Or sometimes, in my current one, those ground rules were laid down before I laid it down. Just because, like, I know I want to lay those down, but you've already done it, so perfect. We're on the same page, you know.
Awesome. Actually, I'm very happy for you on this.
Yeah.
You told me you had a girlfriend. I was like, it's about time. Like, I was wondering when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But,
like when you're chasing stuff, you really have someone...
Yeah, when you're chasing stuff, sometimes
yeah.
it's hard to focus on something like that.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I'm really happy for you.
Thanks, man.
As far as, again, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it because I know a lot of people who do want to follow their dreams. A lot of people won't out of fear of judgment, and sometimes it is an unsupportive parent, and sometimes it's the hater on YouTube that commented on your video and whatever, and sometimes it's just depression.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
it's yourself. You know? It's your own body, your own body chemistry.
For people who do have that problem, it seems like you haven't had too many of those problems. But what would be your advice for those people?
I mean, really, it's that I think an important thing when pursuing something is your own self-awareness. To be able to be aware of, you know, one, what's my goal, and how do I get there, and is it feasible? If it is feasible, has it been done before? If it's been done before, you can definitely do it. If it hasn't been done before, look for something even if it's completely different. Completely different venue. Look for something that's similar. You know, people that came from certain areas, and then follow those steps. There's pretty much nothing that. There's very few things that haven't been done before. There's probably someone out there that's done something similar that's very successful, even if it's a completely different field.
Yeah.
Like for you, you're like, you know, you want to have like a community with a geek culture that has like an ability to, you know, go back and one, support the new stuff coming out, but also the nostalgia that you loved as a kid that
absolutely
made you to who you are. You know, there's that with. If there wasn't that for like a geek culture, there is for sports. You know, like there is for there's that for something. You know,
the idea came to me really just searching Facebook groups that like I was already a member of a Ninja Turtle group and then a Batman group, and I'm like, all of these so many groups. I was like, can't they make something where with all of my interest in it?
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'd like a store with all that too. I'm like, wait, I could do that.
Yeah. Well, that too. And then like when people like if you realize that like you have to set realistic expectations for yourself and realistic goals. And the thing is like the biggest thing is you can have it to where whether it be yourself or whether it be outside influences that give you that will make you like lose motivation and lose momentum. What you do is you set yourself small goals regularly to where when you hit those, that counteracts the negative. You know, where it's just like they may be talking shit, but my goal was like, say your goal is like I'm gonna have 5 sales this month. That's my goal. Just like that's it. If you've already got it to where you know you've got the ball rolling and that's an attainable goal, just like well, I can do that. Cool. You know, I can easily hit that. And then when you do, just like I had somebody just be a real jerk online about this, but at the same time, I hit my goal. Yeah. What are they doing? Do they have goals that they've hit? Yeah. Probably not. They don't matter. I'm going to hit my goal, though. Like, for me, it was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a match. I'm going to have at least one match. And then I have that match, and, like, it wasn't phenomenal, but I had one, and I'm going to do another now. And then, like, so if somebody's like, you'll never be, like, a wrestler, like, well, I've had a match. Have you set a goal where
technically I'm a wrestler. I've done it once.
Yeah, or you could say I was at least. And, you know, if you have somebody that at the same time you can just check to see if you have some kind of like a hater like that, just like have they hit a goal that they wanted to attain recently, or are they just talking negatively because they don't think they can hit their own? Like that's probably what it is, you know.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the people who are really just down on themselves, trying to make
they
themselves
just want to
feel
spread
better.
their own misery. Misery loves company, you know.
You've done a lot of traveling, which you've been living in Chicago for how long now?
A little over 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did the initial move to Chicago, because it was pretty much right by yourself, correct?
Yeah, I knew one person passively that I was moving in with, and I had one friend that I hadn't seen in about 2.5 years.
So, was there any kind of fear at first?
It's really scary.
Anxiety and
it's very scary. Because you just don't have a network. You don't know where to begin sometimes, and that's a lot of. If you initially have a goal, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of going into an unknown. Mine at that time was like really pursuing comedy, and I ended up falling into wrestling because of comedy. But that was like, I knew how to do comedy in Dallas and Fort Worth, and I knew I was good at it, and I knew I was doing it well. But this is a completely different scene with no support system. I know no one there. I was fortunate enough to, when I moved in, I say fortunate enough, but I moved into a place where it was me and 5 other people living in a 6-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And it was essentially it was like living in a co-ed frat house. It was bananas. But at the same time, when I move in, like I was lucky enough to I have 5. If they're not friends, they're people that have to talk to me every now and then. So the long
I'm not alone and I'm not by myself and quiet. And
luckily, they were all really cool. It was mostly comedians and artists, so I got lucky with that, and was able to have at least some kind of friendships and people to hang out with until I kind of found my own circle, I guess, my own group.
Creating new friends. And
Exactly, yeah.
Within the spectrum of what you're doing.
Yeah. And luckily, it's the friend that it was really somebody I performed with. We got along, but we know each other super well. The guy that I hadn't seen like 2 years at that point, we became buddies, and I'm going to be the best man in his wedding in May. So like that worked out really well. I got very fortunate that one of the people that I kind of knew became a very, very close friend. So, I got fortunate in a couple of ways with that to kind of stave off that loneliness, because I know people make that move, specifically in comedy, make that move to Chicago, and it's really fucking hard.
Just being alone in general when you're trying to start something is but I have my days where I'm like, okay, I'm not even I don't beat myself up over that. And I know a lot of people would think, oh well, you didn't make a post today, and now you're not getting as much attention. And I'm not gonna beat myself up over that. I don't care what you think about my losses.
Also, you can't change that.
I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed. But was there any major culture shock moving from Chicago or moving from here?
There was weather shock when winter rolled around. My first winter there was the coldest winter in 15 years, where it got to the real temp, not what it felt like, the actual temperature. It was negative 40 degrees. So real temp was negative 55.
I want to live my entire life believing that that's a fake thing.
That was a big thing. And there's a little bit of culture shock, but at the same time, I was already in the comedy scene here. And the comedy scene, it's different, and it's all different people, but it's not drastically different. So I was lucky on that it wasn't a huge amount of culture shock.
Because technically we're so close to Dallas, it's the city
it's
vibe, I guess.
I mean, Chicago.
I'm sure it's a much bigger city than Chicago, but
if you spend a decent amount of time in an urban area, you can kind of catch on pretty quickly in another urban area.
Gotcha. A lot of things that you've done, to a lot of people would seem like a pipe dream or have some kind of stigma around it. Similar to what I'm doing. I get a lot of grow up, be an adult, that's childish, when are you going to settle down, all that kind of thing. When you do hear stuff like that, how do you respond to that? People who say stuff like that.
I mean, if somebody's grow up, be an adult, you can just quit being boring. How about you quit being, what do you do that's, what do you do that's interesting that makes me want to pursue that? Do you, no. I'm doing something that makes me happy. And it's similar like this. Different things make different people happy. And people need to understand that's fine. And it comes, this is a weird kind of example of it. 5% of the people in the world have an enzyme in their mouth that makes cilantro taste like soap. 95% of the people don't.
I've heard that.
And so those 5%, it's an enzyme that it legit tastes like soap. And they do not like it because of a very valid scientific reason. And if you don't know that and you're just oh, you're just being picky, you're an ignorant idiot. No, this person literally, that's how it tastes to them. And it can taste different to people. You like it and they don't because things are different. So I find something that makes me happy. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't care. Do what makes you happy.
This is my thing. This is my happiness.
Yeah. You're not the one having to do what I'm doing. I'm the one doing it. So, it's none of their business. And if you just have to have empathy and realize that everybody's not you, and that's better.
Yeah, definitely. I actually meant to say this earlier when I met your girlfriend Megan, because I was this close to being like, you really thought he was the weirdest one here, right? You thought he was the biggest geek. No.
You walked in with that hat, and she knew.
And again, like I said, our paths have a very similar stigma to a lot of people, which is where the geek culture comes in. It's where the fun part comes in.
Well, also you have it to where once you're doing it and you start succeeding at it, that's when people go from switching to just be why are you doing that? To being oh, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the difference. Like, you know, you, like, if you're like, oh, I'm a comedian, like, oh, okay. And then you're like, oh, I'm in the top 10 comedians in Texas. And like, oh, that's, oh, wow, yeah, okay, cool. You say, oh, but like 2 years ago, you're just like, okay. You don't seem funny to me.
For example, I rapped for a few years, made probably 30, 40 songs.
Yeah.
And, I mean, people would be like, oh, you don't rap, they're like, freestyle. I'm like, I don't freestyle, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I was like, but here, you can listen to this because it's on my iPod right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's actually pretty good. I'm like,
yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Well,
like, have you ever pursued something to the point where you have a product to show people?
Yeah, yeah. Like, if you enjoy something, do it.
Yeah.
So, into the geek culture of Fandom Flashback, if you will, I want to talk to you about some of the things we did just in our childhood growing up, and the way that what we did after half price sale was over when we went home. With video games and action figures, and this is my favorite thing I think about our childhood was when we played action figures. We did not copy the story that they were from. Yeah. We always made up these
we made movies.
Yeah, like if we had written some of these down, I still to this day think they could have made money.
Yeah,
and we were only 13, but they were actually really good stories at times.
Like they were like We probably played with toys longer than we should have.
For the story reason, no, because of the creativity.
But it was. We weren't. I mean, we were making movies that were just for us. Yeah. Is what we were doing. Like, I know I would go over to friends' houses, and how they would play is like, I'm this guy and I'm this guy and we're gonna fight. What?
That was always boring to me.
That's so boring. How about instead?
I love action figures, but that was so.
How about instead we're playing Star Wars? Like, hey, these are some cool bounty hunters. Those are our favorite characters anyway. We also have these weird Spawn toys that we don't know what to do with. But it's Star Wars. You can have things of all different shapes and sizes. So this weird gorilla from Spawn, he's a bounty hunter too. And like, we're going to tell this bounty hunter tales. This is what we're going to do. Or if we're playing with wrestling toys, like, we would play where we're doing like long plots that extend over play sessions. You know, that are going to have like...
Oh, wrestling figures was a huge one too.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, Billy Kidman's here, Raven turned on him and broke his leg, and then later he comes back as Spider-Man with, what is it called when Spider-Man's in the Venom suit? The
symbiote.
Yeah, the symbiote. The symbiote Spider-Man, which had like 28 points of articulation. So it was fantastic for cruiserweight moves. And he comes back, they're like, who is this guy? And we're kind of copying the story of Sting, when Sting and NWO. Yeah. But like, we had this dope Spider-Man toy, and like, we weren't huge Spider-Man fans necessarily, but I was a huge action figure fan, and it was wrestling and stuff.
We always found ways.
That's what we did. Like, we made movies. I think that's why we continue to stay creative, and you know, like that's one of my favorite things with wrestling, especially with my characters, finding ways to evolve it, make it different. And I'm lucky enough to work at some companies where, you know, the promoter and the booker's open to ideas where you can just go like, hey, I have this idea, I think it'd be really cool, and then it's no longer like I'm going to write this for you, you go do it. It's like, I'm going to write this for you, give me feedback, and then we're going to work on it together to make it cool. And it could go in a completely separate direction than what the original intention was, but it works because we're both passionate about it, you know? Yeah. Like, I see that kind of creative back and forth that we had with playing with toys, working into, like,
we definitely always had bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
Bounce back.
Where we were essentially doing what the yes and, just like, yeah, that's cool. The gorilla is a bounty hunter, and he's Boba Fett's kind of like big guy that's strong. Boba Fett does the cool maneuvering and has the jetpack. But if you need somebody to just fucking kick down a door, he's got this gorilla dude from Spawn to do it.
One more probably staple as far as us playing with action figures, and my mom's gonna remember this one for sure, is when Tina had the big Barbie dream house. And that big pink Barbie dream house. What'd we do? We said, we don't care if it's pink. We're gonna get all our wrestling figures, and we're gonna have a death match.
They're about the
we had the most violent death match in a pink Barbie house.
Yeah.
And Mom was like, y'all are playing on the Barbie house. We're like, yeah,
no,
and
we're playing wrestling. Cactus Jack is jumping off the Barbie house and gonna put somebody through a fucking table. That's what's happening.
somebody just got smashed in the elevator doors
Yeah.
and died.
Yeah. Because it's a death match, Mom. We did that too. We had this old, this was with Star Wars, we had an old, like, what was like a Fisher Price castle of some sort.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was just like, this is like
castle.
Jabba's palace. That's
Yeah.
what it's going to be. It's going to be Jabba's palace. Why? Because we have it. That's why. There's a cool Batman, the Batman mansion from, I think it was either Batman Forever or Batman Returns that we always used. And it was like the mansion and the Batcave mixed in one.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of started here and it folded out into like 4 different sets. And we'd always do that. Like, we played with it with Batman, but we'd also play with it with everything else.
Every character needed a big computer screen.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find really funny, your brother, my other cousin Steph, he's nicknamed me at this point Peter Pan because I just refuse to grow up. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually embrace that. I'm cool with Peter Pan. But I'm also, just keep in mind, I'm a Toys R Us kid. I'm not growing up. I don't care if they're out of business. I'm still a Toys R Us kid.
I'm not bankrupt. They're bankrupt.
But either way, he does jokingly roast me about my commitment to my inner child.
Yeah.
But I credit the two of you for this trait in many, many ways. Like, you make fun of me, but a lot of it's your fault. Like,
also, he considered doing LARPing, live action role playing recently. He almost joined a group where he was like LARPing in the park with fake swords and stuff. So I don't know if you knew this, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it, but he was heavily considering it.
I am definitely going to be calling him Gracie.
So he doesn't get away with it completely. He's still a kid there.
Matter of fact, he doesn't have a Facebook, but I'm just going to send this video straight to him.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, just so you know, you've been told on.
Yeah.
Last thing that I really want to talk about is the epiphany that I've recently had that's been keeping me motivated. And my epiphany was without people like us, what would our reality and society really be? To me, I feel like it'd be boring. How do you view the world without people like us?
I mean, like you got like people that follow something they actually care about. Like, how many people can say they actually care about the thing they do for a living? Like, that it actually makes a difference to them. Like, I mean, it's. I don't know how the world would be, but I just know it sounds awful. Like if everybody, then it's it's to the point where if people are just doing things just to live, like then they're only working to breathe. They're not working to live, actually.
Yeah.
Like I said, like you don't have to. Not everybody's going to be fortunate enough to make a living doing something they love, but they should still be able to do what they love. Like that's the important thing. Like if you don't, like if you love just going home and kicking back and watching Netflix and you really, really enjoy that, cool, that's fine. But like,
if you're happy,
but
don't complain.
Yeah. Like, but and then like also just like what makes you happy. So let's other people do what I think it'd just be the world if it wasn't for people that did that. The world would be gray and just way less interesting, and you wouldn't have the MCU.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have Star Wars.
Oh, that would bring
you wouldn't have like so many fun, creative things that are only there because they're fun. Like the first person to make comic books wasn't making comic books to make money. They're making it to do stories. They wanted to tell a story and they liked to draw. Like, and then it grew from there. And then somebody else discovered, hey, I like that too. I had this idea of making a story about a detective that wears a bat suit.
Which, who knew that would, at the time, would be that big?
I mean, it changed drastically over the years.
Yeah.
From shark repellent to Aaron Eckhart being Two-Face and, that run and...
The gruesome burn on his face.
To Ben Affleck being a decent Batman. Everyone, he's fine. He's definitely the best Bruce Wayne. Ben Affleck is.
I just like that. You know me. I'm gonna watch the movie anyway, and
yeah,
I'm not actually.
I think
big on critiquing actors. I'm just like, I like the movie. I don't care.
I think the biggest problem with some of those, like people like something so much that if it's not exactly how they want it to go, they don't enjoy it. And I feel like you just have to be able to understand, like, hey, I'm here to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy what I can out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love Robin Hood stuff, because Robin Hood Prince of Thieves was one of my favorite movies when I was a little kid. And so, like, the new Robin Hood movie came out with the dude from, what was it? Kingsman and Jamie Foxx.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, just any Robin Hood movie I'm going to enjoy. I'm like, yeah, was the movie a good movie? Probably not. But it had really cool bow and arrow scenes, so I was like, no, I'm going to enjoy the cool bow and arrow scenes, because I've always liked bow and arrow scenes.
Speaking of movies that aren't really great, but it's still a staple of my childhood, and I will watch it anytime I can find it. The Three Ninjas series, I freaking love those.
They're so dumb and
They're
good.
so terribly awful, they're great.
One of my favorite things, and I don't know why it's always stuck with me, is in the first movie where he just goes, real ninjas don't use guns. And I'm just like, I don't know why I still remember that, but I'm just like, yeah, they don't. Which I don't know if that why I'm just like, I'm not really big on the NRA, because real ninjas don't use guns.
Oh, man.
It's like, you know, the right to carry, just like, yeah, you get the Second Amendment, but you're not a real ninja. I don't know if that actually matters. Most of those people don't want to be ninjas, so I guess it's fine, but...
But it matters to me.
It matters to me. I can at least have that on you. You're not a ninja. Real ninjas don't use guns.
Oh man, we could geek out all day, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one short so we can get to the Jack Moody.
All right.
I think everybody's gonna really enjoy that. I know I enjoyed writing out the questions for it, so I'm anxious to see how it turns out. So
Cool.
Keep an eye out for it, guys, and we'll have it up for you soon. Oh.
All right. You're gonna chill for a bit, and then we'll do.